Hey class, this is Mrs. Gooch again. So here we are learning about whether games are fair or unfair, what theoretical probability really is, and being able to turn that theoretical probability into a fraction, decimal, and a percent. So the first thing you have to remember is this notation. If you weren't able to get this in your notes earlier today, please go through and put this in now. It's really important that you remember that the denominator is the number of possible outcomes that would happen, and the numerator is how many of those favorable outcomes could happen. So remember, when we were talking about rolling a dice, and we wanted to roll a 4, we think about the dice, and we would say roll, so we could spell, that would be great, roll a 4. Well, there are 6 possible outcomes on a dice, but we only want one of those 6 outcomes. So my fraction would be 1/6. And then I would go through and find the decimal and the percentage. But just to kind of remind yourself of what we're really talking about here. So, with that said, let's talk about fair. Fair means an outcome is equally likely to occur. So then unfair means something has a greater chance of it happening than something else. So in this one, we look at spinner A and spinner B, and we see that spinner A has 4 sections. 2 are red and 2 are blue. The sections are equal, so we would say spinner A is fair. But we look at spinner B and we see that section 1 is really big. Section 2 is kind of big, but section 3 is smaller. Because there's the 3 different sizes, there are 3 different numbers or colors, this is unfair because it's not equal. So let's practice this. So you randomly choose one of the letters shown. We have E, X, P, L, O, R, and E. What is the theoretical probability of choosing a vowel? Well, how many numbers do I have? Let's write our notation down. I've got the probability of a vowel. And I see that I have 7 total letters. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. But what is a vowel? Well, vowels are the A, E, I, O, and U of our alphabet. So I look and I go, well, what do I have of those? So I'm looking through it and I have E, E, and O. So I see I have 3 potential outcomes. That would give me a vowel. So there's my fraction, 3/7. So now I'm going to type that in my calculator and get the decimal. All right, so the decimal I got out was 0.428, and it continued on for a while. So now I need to turn 0.428 into a percentage. So the way you do that is you either move your decimal 2 places to the right, or you times the number that you get out as a decimal by 100. And so you're going to get out 42.8%. In class, we talked about rounding and saying I wanted it rounded to the nearest whole percentage. So I'm looking at my ones column, I'm looking back at the 8, and I think 8 is between 5 and 9, so I'm going to give my 2 a shove. So my percentage is 43%. Now, let's look at example 2 real quick. What is the theoretical probability of choosing an X out of those numbers? Well, I'm looking at this and I go, well, I'm looking for the probability of getting an X. I still have 7 numbers, or letters to choose from, and I only have 1 X. So that's 1/7. So I type that into my calculator. All right, so I typed that into my calculator and I got out 0.142. Times that by 100, I get 14.2%. And then I round it by going to my whole percentage, look back, 2 is between 0 and 4. And then I leave the 4 alone, so it is 14%. All right, so let's look at one more thing for this video. When we are told the actual probability. So in this situation, we are told that we are going to choose a green marble. So our probability is we are going to choose a green marble. And it already told us the probability is 3/8. So there are 3 green marbles for all 8 marbles that are in the bag. All that are in the bag. That's nice and all, but it's actually asking us if we have 40 marbles, how many of them are green? So this kind of goes back to when we were talking about probabilities. And we had to make proportional relationships. So we ended up with there's 40 in the bag. And now, I don't know how many greens there are. I'm trying to figure that out, so I'm going to put my x there. We use cross multiplication, so 8 times x. That gives us 8x equals 3 times 40, that is 120. All right, now through using PEMDAS backwards, because I've got a variable, I divide by 8 on both sides. And I find out x equals 15. So I have 15 green marbles. All right, class, I hope that's helpful. I'll see you tomorrow.